In this tutorial, I'd like to show you how different pickups can add and subtract from your countdown timer. So let's start with a blueprint object. We'll make it an actor, so let's call it rock BP. So within the rock BP, let's add a static mesh here. And I guess since I called it rock BP, let's give it a rock static mesh. And another important thing, if we want the timer to lose time when the character overlaps with this rock, we also need to make a way for this rock to be collided with. So it needs a collision. So we'll give it a sphere collision. Let's make it a little bit bigger here. Move it up. And that's probably fine for this. Also important, when we're on the mesh component, generate overlap events should be checked, as well as overlap all dynamic. Okay, so we have this rock set up. Now that we have the rock set up, let's go into our game mode. So in this case, it's the side scroller game mode. So I'm just going to search for game mode here. And this is where we have the timer set up. So we also need to make another function called subtract time. So in subtract time, I want to set the seconds. And let's say every time we run into this rock, we want to lose, let's just say 7 seconds of time. So when we subtract time, we set the seconds to be 7 less than what they are. And one other thing I want to do here real quick is if the timer goes below 0, I want it to still read 0. So basically, I don't want it to be able to go below 0. So in that case, let's add a branch here. So then if 0 is greater than the seconds, so if the seconds do go below 0 here, we just want to set the seconds. Then we need to cast to the side scroller BP, our character. And also get player character. So we have this subtract time function set up in the game mode now. So now we're going to jump back over to the rock blueprint here. We're going to go into the event graph here. And we're going to create a function in this event graph. We're going to call it decrease time. Okay, so on this decrease time, we actually need to cast to the side scroller game mode to get all of that data. Again, we need to get the game mode. So then once we're in the side scroller game mode, so from casting, we have access to the subtract time function. There we go. Compile, save that. So now going back to our event graph, so jumping out of the function of the rock, going into the event graph, we want the subtract time to happen when the rock overlaps with the side scroller character. So that's why we're going to use event actor begin overlap, and we'll cast it to our side scroller character, which is the other object. And this is where we will call the decrease time function, which calls the subtract time function from the game mode. And often when there are pickups and after they've done what they're supposed to do, so in this case, after it is subtract the time, let's go ahead and destroy the rock, so kind of essentially pick it up and it disappears. So let's just see if that works real quick. Oh, you know, one thing that would be good would be to put the rock in the level. So the rock BP, let's drag it out here. I might have to see how this lines up in the side scroller plane. Looks okay. Perfect. So as you can see, I'll replay it. When you overlap, the time jumps down 7 seconds and the rock disappears. Perfect, that's awesome. And just to make it very clear what's happening, let's go ahead and do an add time function too with another object. But let's wait and see if the timer goes below 0 too. Perfect, so your timer is set to 0, so kind of a more normal timer. And to that you can hook up death animations, end of game widgets, and other things like that. So let's just repeat this whole process so that you can see it again with an object that will add time. I'm going to go into the starter content and grab another prop here. Not a lot to choose from. All right, well, let's just use a table here. So this is a very complex game here. So with the table, let's make sure that's in the same plane. It must be, because he can't run past it. I'm gonna drag it a little bit more towards us. Okay, so we have the table. To do anything with the table, let's add a blueprint. That'll work fine. Okay, so we have that, but first we'll go to the side scroller game mode and let's add a function for adding time. So on add time, again, we will set the seconds. And how much do we want to do this? Set the seconds to... Let's do something insane. Let's do 55 more seconds. It's a really nice pickup. So we're gonna set the seconds to be equal to 55 seconds more than what they already are here. Getting the seconds. And so here, this would be where, for example, if you didn't want the seconds to go above 100, then you could do that. So maybe I'll go ahead and do that just to show you. So that way you're kind of capping the seconds at 100 and you also can't go below 100. So that's kind of nice for your game. So let's see. So if the seconds, that. If the seconds are greater than 100, maybe we jump the seconds back down to, I don't know, let's do 60. So if you happen to pick up maybe too many tables and your seconds are getting really high, maybe the game will jump you back down to 60 just so you can't be doing that well in the game. In any case, let's see if that even works. Let's cast to side scroller character again. Get player character. Plug this in here. Okay, so we have the add time function now. Now we jump back into our table blueprint. Go to the event graph here. So let's make a function in here now called add time, or let's call it increase time. So on increase time, we will start again by casting. So there's a lot of blueprint communication in the timer programming. So we're going to cast to the game mode where the seconds are. Then we will add time. Okay, so we've got that going on. And now we need to do the overlap stuff. So let's not forget to come over here to the mesh. Let's make sure the mesh can generate overlap events and is set to overlap all dynamic. And additionally, let's actually add the collision for this guy. We'll just do a box. Why not? Close that. A pretty big box. That'll be fine. So collision, great. Okay, so back to the event graph of the table. Again, let's cast to our side scroller now, because that's who we're overlapping with. And now we call the other function increase time. Just right here. Nope. Okay. So again, after we increase time, maybe it would be nice to destroy that actor as well. So let's see if this works. So we got our decrease. Ah, sweet. Look how much it added to our time. We're gonna win this game. But let's also check that other thing that we did. So I'm going to alt drag to create several tables. So we have 3 tables here. I'm gonna move this guy out of the way. It doesn't really matter where they are or how well they fit right now. We're just testing to see. So if we run in here, okay, cool. So if we go over 100, it's just gonna jump us back down to 60. So you only have a minute to play this game. So there you go. There's some basic interaction of objects that can change your countdown timer in Unreal.